With a very difficult schedule in 2021, can the Michigan Wolverines get things turned around? We're going to project what their record will be based on this schedule and how tough this schedule is. And I want to be clear here, this is not an official prediction. We don't do predictions for several more months because there's a lot of things to get into in the offseason, a lot of research to be done. This is just an early look at the schedule and just kind of the team's odds to win each game on their schedule based off of how the teams were last year and what they have coming back, home field advantage, things like that. So again, 2-4 for Michigan last year, only played 6 games. They did not have a good year, obviously. We're going to see if maybe the schedule will set up in a way that they can maybe improve on that. But again, the schedule is very tough, so I think it's going to be hard. Now, 2-4, obviously, I think they can do better than that. I think they can have a winning record. But these are the percentages that we'll be using here. The game is in white. That means it's basically a 50-50 game, a game that I could see going either way, a game where the spread's going to be, 3 or 4 points or less. And then the games, under 10%, that's in the red, 10 to 25% in the orange, 26 to 40% in the yellow, 60 to 74% in the purple, 75 to 90% in the blue. And then if they have more than a 90% chance, it's going to be in green. Obviously, a game that a team has a 75% chance in and a game where they have a 90% chance in is much different. But we're just wanting to kind of group these games together and kind of put the teams in tiers sort of to figure out these percentages. So I don't see any game on the schedule where I say Michigan will be favored by 20-plus points. I think they'll be favored by double digits, a decent amount against Western Michigan and Northern Illinois. But coming off of the year that they just had, and these games being early in the year, I don't think Michigan is going to be huge favorites in these games, but they should win. It would be a very big surprise if they were to get upset against either Western Michigan or Northern Illinois. So we're going to put those in the blue, and I think they're close to 90%. They're definitely closer to 90% than they are 75%, but I just don't feel quite confident enough with these games, again, being early in the year to put them over 90%. So those games in the blue here, we're going to go to the purple now. Games where I think Michigan will be favored, but not by a ton, by 6, 7, 8, 9 points, somewhere in there. And again, we've got a pretty big range here, 60 to 74%. So for Michigan, I think Rutgers playing them at home. I know the game was really close last year. I know Rutgers is starting to get things turned around, but Michigan still talent-wise is much better than Rutgers. They should win this game. It's not going to be a game where they're double-digit favorites, I don't think, but it's a game that they should win, and we're going to put them in the 60 to 74% range. Michigan State, I know they just beat Michigan last year, but this year the game's at home, and looking at these two rosters, I feel like Michigan will have the better team. It's a rivalry game. Perhaps this should be in that 50-50 range, but I like Michigan at home to be the favorite by about a touchdown. And then Maryland is a little bit tricky. The game is between Penn State and Ohio State. It's late in the year. It's on the road. But still, when you look at the two rosters, Michigan should have the better team. They've got some youngsters. They should be playing a lot better by this point in the season. And they could be really desperate for a win after playing a really tough schedule. This could be a really big game for Michigan. So I think they will be favored. Maybe it's only 6 points, but it's enough to put them in this category. So now we're going to go to the opposite side of this and go to the games where they're going to be underdogs. And we start with Ohio State. I think this one is in that 10 to 25% range. Maybe it should be in the less than 10% because, let's face it, Michigan, they haven't been able to beat Ohio State in a long time. And I really don't see anything this year that makes me think they're going to have a chance to do it. The game's at home. Justin Fields is gone. Yeah, there are some things going for Michigan to where they might have a 10% chance to win this game, maybe a 15% chance to win this game, but they're going to be big underdogs, double-digit underdogs, and it would be honestly a big surprise if Michigan was able to pull off this upset. But you never know. So again, I'm gonna put it in the orange, not in the red, and say that they have a chance. It would be a big upset, but they have a chance at least to pull off that one against Ohio State. And then we go into the yellow here. Games that are in the 26 to 40% range. These are games where Michigan will be about a touchdown underdog, 6, 7, 8 points, somewhere in that range. And we have several of these. We have Wisconsin on the road, Indiana on the road, and Penn State on the road. So all three of these games, all three of these teams were teams that beat Michigan in 2020. And now you play all three of these opponents on the road. Yeah, that is going to be really difficult. Wisconsin, and Indiana really beat Michigan easily last year. There's no reason to think that Michigan will be favored in these games, or even that the spread will be less than a touchdown. I think Wisconsin and Indiana clearly will be favored in these two matchups. And then Penn State, same thing there. They beat Michigan by, I think, 10 last year. And I really think Penn State's going to have things turned around. You look at how they closed out the year. This is going to be a really good team. And playing on the road. And again, when we do this, we're assuming that we're going to have full capacity crowds, or at least 50% capacity. There will be a home field advantage. And because of that, I really don't think Michigan will be favored in any of these three games. Not to say that they can't win them. Again, these games in the yellow are games that Michigan can win. Just games where we know that they're probably going to be an underdog. And that leaves three more games here. Washington, Nebraska, and Northwestern. These, to me, are the 50-50 games. These are the games that could go either way. Washington, a big game early in the year. Northwestern, also a home game for them. Can they win those two games at home? And then Nebraska on the road. That's going to be a difficult game there as well. If they win all three of these games, win all three of them, and then lose the four games where I'm expecting them to be underdogs, it would be an 8-4 season for Michigan. Now, what happens if they lose all three of these games? They lose to Nebraska, they lose to Northwestern, they lose to Washington, add on the other four losses. Yeah, it could be a 5-7 year for Michigan. And Rutgers, Michigan State, Maryland are not going to be easy wins. They could even lose one of those games. So if things don't go well for Michigan, if everything kind of goes against them in 2021, yeah, they could have a really bad year once again. But I think the odds would tell you that they're going to win some of these games. They're going to have a chance, to maybe pull off an upset against against Wisconsin, against Indiana, maybe Penn State. They might have a chance to win two of the three 50-50 games. And if they take care of business in these purple games, the Rutgers, Michigan State, Maryland games, they'll have a chance to have a pretty solid year. But what we do here for the projected record is I count everything in blue and green as a win. Orange and red, I count that as a loss. And then I just kind of average out. I have a formula I use to average out the rest of the games. And Michigan really came out right in between 6-6 and 7-5. We're going to go with 7-5 for Michigan. But again, it was more likely with this formula that they would finish 6-6 than it is that they would finish 8-4. So keep that in mind. 6-6, 7-5. That's the early projected record for Michigan. Like I said, they could do a little better. Could go 8-4 potentially. I think that's probably about the best case scenario for them. But it could easily get out of control. Again, if they lose to Washington and Rutgers, you could be looking at a 5-7 type season for Michigan. So I think 7-5 would actually be pretty solid. Again, this is a team with a very difficult schedule. If they had an easy schedule, I think the talent is there to where Michigan could potentially have a 9-3 type year. But given this schedule and given the struggles that they had last year, I think 7-5 is a very fair projection. Not a prediction, simply a projection based on the percentages here for them to win each game. So Michigan, 7-5 in 2021. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you think it'll be higher or lower? Give me your thoughts down in the comments below.